That's a sad fact.
So, and it was to me, it was always about the music, not about some kind of political stance that I took.
So does it coincide? Is there like a timely coincision for the two of you when you started considering yourself left wing and when you started listening to metal, or is this it was what is the development for you personally here? Did it touch base? Like I started listening to metal and I also got into politics, or was that different development?
Metal, for me, when I was first listening to like the first thrash stuff, so this is like, late 80s, it has a pseudo political feel to it, right? Slayer's singing about Auschwitz, but are they really, fervent anti-Nazis because they love the imagery?
Yes. Yeah.
Maybe to a fault. Or is it just something kind of dark to sing about? Metallica has some sort of anti-war songs. They all have kind of anti-war songs, but I bought into the hype that this was about something bigger than me. And there's a video for Peace Sells But Who's Buying, where this young man is watching the video and his father comes in the room. He goes, "I want to watch the news." And the kid goes, "This is the news." And he turns it back to the Megadeth video. And I think that's how a lot of us felt when listening to the music, that we were politically active and in kind of an apolitical time. So, punk music was the first wave of hardcore punk is very anti-Reagan. And then you have the year 1984 where Reagan wins again in a landslide. Thatcher's still in charge. So there's a feel of defeat in that music. And I think it gets extremely nihilistic, and maybe even by the time the 90s hit, gets a little stereotypical of what you would think that a quote unquote political anti-authoritarian group would sound like. Because you have to ask yourself, if you're constantly singing to the same 100 people, are you trying to make anything for a larger audience if you really have some sort of movement that you're about? When you think about movement music, people aren't singing "Ayo, let's go" at protests. They sing like folk music for a reason, because it's something that can unite a lot of people, as corny as some of those songs may be.
And Rune, for you, how was it there with how does your political stance connect or not connect to your subcultural upbringing?
I'd say it doesn't connect very well at all, because my grandfather was in the SED. My father was in the SED, so probably I had to become a communist.
So you're just carrying the torch of the family.
And yes, and I think I don't really need music to validate my own worldview, but it's something that's really outlandish for me, and so very.
Like, I'm shocked at certain bands that actually have good politics.
Yeah.
Because, getting to know a lot of people in the business, at best you get, I'm talking, bigger names in the industry. At best you get liberals. At best. You're not getting too many radical politics. I recently came across Killing Joke.
Yes.
On social media, and they had a hammer and sickle as their social media insignia, and I was kind of blown away by that. I was like, "Oh, I guess you guys are really about it."
It's like political switch. It's like political switch, no?
Yeah. Yeah, with Killing Joke, actually, I saw them live a couple of times, and then I have to say, sometimes there's like even if they're radical, there's kind of like maybe it's because they're artists, and artists are like a breed of their own, because then the vocalist was going into this full-on rant about chemtrails, and was like, yeah, you kind of
what did I tell you? At best.
At best, yes, and that's a little bit the thing, and I think that's, I don't know, metal loves to sell the rebellion, like the I'm anti-establishment, I'm anti-system, but I don't know any major bands who had radical social politics, and I think that's a little bit the how can I say, the poisoned chalice, because one of my favorite bands was super important for me growing up was the band that Pete Steele had before Typo Negative, Carnivore, and they were so tasteless with their lyrics that if a band would like kind of like pop up now and have the same lyrics as Carnivore, I think I would be pissed and would say like, guys, this is like 2022. I don't think we have to call songs male supremacy anymore. I still love Jesus Hitler to the death. I love that lyrics. That's tasteless to it's like almost an artistic perfection. How can you be the most offensive band? And but the thing is, like there was nothing behind it. To the contrary, I personally am rather convinced that Pete Steele was probably rather right wing. And I know that he had, it already happened in the chat. He hung out when he was in Germany. He hung out with bands that were actually openly fascist. So the thing is, and that's I think you made even an essay about, but it was more connected to the punk scene. I think this being all about the evil performance, kind of like if you look at it very closely, it's already a little bit in there, because what are they striking at? Are they striking at the way that people are like? Are they striking at the ways of like at the means of production? Are they striking at like how power dynamics are actually in our society, or are they somewhat anti-authority and super macho while being that? So to me, I think, and I mean this like really with a lot of love, because I wouldn't be the human being I am today without a metal and a punk community. Definitely not. So I take this like as a solidarity criticism. We say that solidarische Kritik in Germany. But I think there is like in itself already a rather reactionary element, like in the actual meaning of the word. You're reacting to something instead of driving something forward. Like if for example, if Satanism would be the religion of the US, they would be Christians. Like it's not that they chose Satanism as a means of offending people. And if being offensive is your only mode of work, you're easily baited, like into how can I say, into going the wrong direction, like kicking the wrong people in your lyrics, for example.
If you think about the idea of a culture of deconstruction, and I call the culture of deconstruction the culture of no, right? All I'm about is no. If you think about the culture of authenticity, that is the gatekeeping culture of who gets to come in and play, who gets to be part of your scene. Those things will always work to neutralize one another, to kind of keep you insulated and small. And you have to ask yourself, why does hardcore punk not blow up the way metal does? And punk is a lot simpler to digest. It's generally 3 chords. It's just as fast. It's just as nihilistic, if that's what you're looking for. The imagery is pretty similar. Sometimes lyrics are indistinguishable as they're being yelled. Why does one grow and one doesn't? I don't think that the metal community was any more accepting of success than the punk community was, because in 94 or 92, when you start to get Nirvana and they sign a major label record deal, Nirvana, in my opinion, is no different from their predecessors. Nirvana is the extension of Black Flag, of Flipper, right? It's just a different branding. And they're totally fine with that branding. They're totally fine with corporate sponsorship. They're totally fine with playing corporate festivals. They may complain about it here and there. It may weigh on their soul here and there, but ultimately, they're fine with being part of the system. And metal music has never pushed back being part of the system. Our proto-metal bands, Black Sabbath, Alice Cooper, Led Zeppelin, all them motherfuckers had jets. And and had no problem with having motherfucking jets. So how anti are you really? I'm not saying everyone that straps on a guitar and wants to get the metal zone distortion into their line 6 amp.
Oh my God.
It's
Many careers were started with this setup.
Right? I'm not saying every one of those people wants a jet. I don't believe that. I refuse to believe that. But what I'm saying is that the music itself never really told us it was anything more than what it was.
Hmm.
You know, since I have been listening and consuming this stuff, there has been massively large rock stars. I'm watching them on my television playing massively large festivals. You know, I never saw Metallica play a living room party. I'm not saying they didn't, just didn't see it.
Mhm.
Those weren't the images that we were given in this era. It's big stages, big bands doing big stuff. We projected onto them maybe more than they were. And Une has, I love when he says, music doesn't make my politics.
Mhm.
I dig that, right? I hate labels. I was in a band before Bitter Lake with my ex called Le Fin Absolute du Monde. We hated labels. We always got labeled something we weren't. And it was just really, really difficult until finally Justin Broderick from Godflesh took us on tour. And that really helped a lot as far as us no longer playing with like acoustic groups and shit like that. But
Fucking Godflesh.
that's another person that hates labels,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
hates being put into a box and makes the music that they want to make. I would never say Justin is an anti-capitalist.
Yeah. Probably not. I wouldn't.
Good dude.
Is
Good
he
dude.
actually? That's a good question because I have the feeling that in there's a difference, and I think this is also something that we can talk about a little bit. I think there's a bit of a difference in the attitude between the UK, the US, and also
Mhm.
Germany. We have no one from the UK here. I'm sorry about that, but I think I can kind of like dip in just a little bit. But because I think in the UK we had like at least, how can I say, not in too mainstream metal, but in the underground, I think we always had a strong connection to the punk community there, and I think the punk community in the UK was always a lot more class conscious than the US American punk community. If you look at the lyrics, for example, of bands like Crass or Discharge or something like that, that's true, especially Discharge. That's honest to God anti-capitalist music.
Yes.
So best punk band ever. Anyway, so no, but just kidding. But you had like you had bands that, or even metal bands. Like I'm not, because I was gonna go for grindcore, but that's a little bit of a cheap shot because grindcore is like mix half punk half metal. But even like death metal bands like Bolt Thrower. That's for me they're an interesting example because they are all, I would even say, honest to God, lefties. It just doesn't play a role for their music. Their music is about war machinery, about battle axes, chainsaws, and stuff like that. And if there is any, how can I say, like criticism of the system, it's kind of like thinly veiled into actually rather cool, adventurous war songs. And in Germany, it was a little bit different. In Germany, you had maybe Rune can add and correct me if I say something wrong. Like I think in the beginning, you had some sort of like consciousness about where these people came from. As I said, like Sodom and Creator, they were all like miners. Like
Yeah, Tankard too.
yes, yes. And there's even a great movie. I really love that movie. It's called Verlierer, Losers in Germany. It actually was produced by a German TV channel. It's about kids in the thrash metal scene. It's fun. You even see some thrash metal bands from that age playing live. And that was a really interesting movie about people being poor, about people being working class, not having a perspective, like except to die in the fucking mines. You know, like like a very hard job. Even in the 20th century, being a miner was not good for your health. And I have the feeling that this got a little bit, even this hint of it, like this nuance of some sort of consciousness that maybe there is like a structural injustice in the world. I think this got a little bit lost. And for the US, I would agree with what you say, Jason. I also love your video essay that you made about like the culture of deconstruction and authenticity. I wholeheartedly agree. I just for Germany, I'm not entirely sure what went on there. Maybe something similar. Maybe the nerdification. I think in Germany.
Well, let me ask you guys this question, because also we talk about class and stuff. Do you guys have music class in your schools?
Yes, we have.
Yes.
And you can get instruments and stuff?
As well, there's the cheapest way of getting a musical education is going to the so-called Musikschule, music school. And there you can get cheap rentals or even like play with the instruments there. They're mostly shitty, so you're encouraged to buy your own. But I would say getting into music is a lot easier than in the US. But let's be honest, all the people that I know that send their kids to music school are the ones that are at least middle class.
Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to hit like and subscribe on your way out. You can catch the live stream of This Is Revolution every Tuesday through Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific Time and Saturday, 9 a.m. Pacific Time. This is Revolution.